product of I to the 7th and I to the 5th is equivalent to 1, -1, I, or -I. Okay, so first of all, what is I? Right? Just as a review, I is the square root of -1. And you're saying probably, well, you can't take the square root of -1. You can't take the square root of anything that's negative. And you would be absolutely right. And that's why it's called I. I is for imaginary. So this is an imaginary number. It's not something that we can plot on an ordinary coordinate plane. It's a complex number. It's in it's in its own separate segment of math. So that's why we create this variable I, because it allows us to account for the fact that part of a number is real and another part of a number is complex. So anything that contains I or square root of a negative is a complex number. So that's really all you need to know about I right now, is that it equals the square root of -1, and that means it's a complex number. So a lot of students like to memorize the first few, and I don't necessarily recommend memorizing anything, because if you can figure it out on the spot, then that's better than memorizing it. But if I equals -1, then you can pretty quickly figure out what would I squared be, what would I cubed be, and what would I to the 4th be. So let's work out a few of these, and this might help us to actually solve. So I squared, anything that you're taking the square root of that's then being squared, it just takes away the square root, right? So this would be -1. And what about cubed? So we have square root of -1 times square root of -1 times square root of -1, or I squared times I, right? You could break this up into I squared times I. So we're multiplying this, -1, times this, square root of -1. So that would be the negative square root of -1. And I to the 4th, you can think of it a couple different ways, but the easiest way is probably to just take I squared and square that, right? I squared squared. That's how I like to think of it. -1 squared is just 1. So let's remember these. If this is I, right? This is I. So actually, let's keep this as I. This is -1, and this is really -I, right? So anytime we see square root of -1, we're going to use that as an opportunity to just keep working with I. And anytime we see a number, a real number, it doesn't have a complex part, like I squared is just -1 and I to the 4th is just 1, then we'll use that opportunity to work with real numbers. Alright, so keeping this in mind, let's get into what this problem is actually asking us to find. They want the product of I to the 7th times I to the 5th. And again, we're treating I just like an ordinary variable at this point until we make our substitutions. So when you have the same base and different exponents, this is just like x to the 7th times x to the 5th, right? If you have the same base, what do you do with the exponents? You add them. So this would be x to the 12th, right? So it's no different with I. It's just I to the 12th. Now what you do with this is up to you. You could probably put that in your calculator. You could probably put in I to the 12th and it would just pop out with the answer. Or you could break it into one of these, which you know, right? I to the 12th is like I to the 4th cubed. I to the 4th being cubed. Because in this case, power to a power, we would multiply the exponents. So that would be equivalent to I to the 12th. And what is I to the 4th? Well, I to the 4th is just 1. So this equals 1 cubed, which is 1. And again, you can go back and you can verify that on your calculator, but I to the 12th certainly equals 1, and the best choice would be number 1.